Stream. One of your baby sponsors, the role of the N.I.B, remember?
Okay, so let me know when you're finished sending the text. We can begin.
The next one, I think you might remember, I think it's when we outline the fundamentals of the situation of the relationships. And if it went as planned.
No, it didn't.
I suggested taking it.
That's all.
You don't want to do that? Richard, what is your number? 768-8534?
I'm sorry?
Sure.
Yeah. 8534.
Okay, so when we start, I'm going to just make the presentation as to what we're doing here at this point in time, and then I'll ask each of you to introduce yourself and your title and what you do with the N.I.B. And then we will start talking about some of the issues affecting the employees at the N.I.B. And some of the other things I will ask you include National Insurance Officers section, names of their members, that's you, the role of the N.I.B., National Insurance Board negotiations 2008 to 2010. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a lot about it, whichever you prefer. Yes. Goals to be achieved by the team following from the negotiation exercise and the anomalies in administration. And talk a little bit about the nepotism, the recruitment practices, and understaffing problems that exist currently at the N.I.B. So we're all set, Mr. Sedena? Yes? All right. You're tuned in to PSA Radio and radio.psatt.org. I'm Karyn, your host, keeping you company until 1 o'clock today. And you're listening to Colby, Kianat in the background with the Real Lines. And what I'm realizing is that I am very, very blessed by the presence of some of the members here of the National Insurance Board. We are doing a live interview this morning, and we're very, very happy to have them grace us with their presence to discuss some of the issues currently occurring within the National Insurance Board. So I'm going to have each member of the N.I.B., each person introduce himself and herself, because we've got two gentlemen here and a lady. And just to let everybody know how to get onto the radio station, please go to radio.psatt.org and click on the purple button that says Listen Now. And then on a separate page, go to Ustream TV and type in PSA Radio. Click on the very first photograph on the top left-hand side of the page, and then you can see us live here at the radio station and hear us simultaneously. How does that sound? Okay, so as mentioned, we've got three persons from the National Insurance Board, and I'm going to start with the first person, who is to my left, and have the gentleman introduce himself, and each person is going to introduce himself and herself, and tell us a little bit about your role, what you do within the N.I.B.
Good day to everybody, to the nation at large, and thanks for tuning in, and thanks in particular for the attention that you will pay to the views that we're going to be expressing. My name is Terence Regis, member of the Central's Management Committee, the representative body for the National Insurance Board.
Okay. So now we've got the next person who will introduce himself.
Good morning to the listening population, especially those from the NIBTT section. I am Constance Hercules, and today with my other colleagues, we are here to speak on issues relating to the NIBTT section, specifically our negotiations and other issues that affect us within the workplace and contribute to the problems we are now experiencing within that said place.
Thank you, Ms. Hercules.
Hi, good morning, listening public. My name is Richard Sideno. I'm a committee member of the N.I.B section of the PSA. I work in the accounts department where I handle the cash reports from all the service centers on a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sedeno. So we're all present here this morning for a very special reason, and that is to air some of the grievances that are currently occurring in the National Insurance Board. This past Sunday on UNI and PSA was Mr. Terence Regis to my left and Ms. Constance Hercules, and they've joined us again. And we thank you for coming on to PSA Radio and gracing us with your presence to share some of the issues that are currently at hand within the N.I.B. So tell me first off, Terence Regis, a little bit about the role of the N.I.B.
The N.I.B, the National Insurance Board, is what people might generally refer to as a social security body. The fundamental purpose is to provide social security protection for the working population and its dependents. Right? Currently, in terms of the existing design of the organization, that is discharged by providing coverage for loss of income occasioned by particular event. Contingencies, they typically refer to them as. Such events or contingencies would be illness, when people fall ill and as a result of that illness unable to work and as a consequence lose earnings. Such loss of earnings is insured by the National Insurance Board in keeping with its function, its mission as a social security board. Other contingencies such as maternity and injury on the job or invalidity generally, and state of long-term infirmity if you wish. These are occasions that would result in loss of income, loss of earning capacity, and these are the circumstances insured by social security bodies such as the National Insurance Board. Perhaps primary, indeed not perhaps, but primary among them all is retirement. Another event, inevitable if you live long enough, where because of old age, you reach the point where you're no longer able to earn salary income. And that too is insured against, as is the case with social security bodies universally, right? So that people receive a pension, a retirement benefit pension, to cover for the contingency of retirement or old age if you wish. That, I think, is a reasonable summary of our purpose and method, right? There's something I want to say though. For us, the purpose of the N.I.B is a very sacred one. For us as union people, as trade unionists, because unionism and social security share common roots. The history of both are closely intertwined. In the earliest manifestations, trade unions actually doubled up as social security providers long before there were state-managed social security systems, right? Providing unemployment benefits and other benefits that would eventually be taken over by state systems such as we have today. Indeed, the establishment of the first state-managed social security system ever was the direct and unquestionable outcome of labor agitation, working class agitation in Germany, leading to the establishment of the first national insurance system in 1889. It was a level of agitation that threatened the very existence of the regime that led to the then Bismarck government making, among other concessions, the one to establish a social insurance system. So having regard to this history, as briefly outlined it, we understand that social security systems to be the legacy of trade union action, and we have a special feeling about it. And we, in particular, as union operatives, if you wish, at the National Insurance Board, feel a special pride about our association with the social security system.
Now, Mr. Regis, how long have you been with the N.I.B?
Since 1978. That is what, approximate 32 years, I think, or 34, perhaps.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's a matter of dubious congratulations. Yes, accept in the spirit that you offer it, but as it will become evident when we examine the occupational experience at that place, I can understand what I mean.
So what has inspired you then to stay with the N.I.B all these years?
At least two things. The fact of its mission, to which I referred, and an awareness of that mission, the fundamental purposes, the fact that basically it is trade unionism by another method. And as corny as this might sound, the staff themselves, an affinity that was developed over the years of working together with staff for the achievement of improvements in the terms and conditions, for the achievement of their own social security, if you wish. Right? Broadly speaking, such were the motivations that have kept me there. So help me, there are several other points in the other direction.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Regis. Now, Ms. Constance Hercules, if you could share with us a little bit about how long you've been with the N.I.B. and talk to us a little bit about your role and what inspires you to do with what you do with the N.I.B.
I have been with the N.I.B for the past 31 years. And
Congratulations to you too.
And like Mr. Regis, my reply would be the same, dubious. My reason, the rationale of actually working with this organization is also the same as Mr. Regis. Social security, and with time, the affinity that we have cultivated with our colleagues within the workplace. I am a customer service rep. I have been a customer service rep since 1995. And the fact that I have been working with this organization for 31 years would say that I have experience and knowledge, but yet, since 1995, I am still a customer service rep. This role is not only enjoyed by myself, but this is what we face within the NIBTT. Staff working long years, having gained experience and knowledge, and yet seemingly not good enough to advance to other positions within the organization. Secondly, my other role within the organization is that as the chairman of the NIBTT section. I enjoy this role as of November 2010. And that I accepted this position mainly for what we have experienced within the organization over time. And I believe that with the knowledge I gained through a scholarship enjoyed by this very association at the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, and recognizing what is happening in the workplace as it relates to the administration by management towards staff in industrial relations. I felt I could do something to advance the position of the members who are seemingly not respected as workers who are advancing the position of the employer that both parties should benefit. We see it as though only one party benefiting from this, and the others, as you go back in time, being treated unfairly and always at a disadvantage. And my role as a chairman, as the chairman of this section, is to educate, empower, and to advance the strength that we as a group of workers have within the organization in a more productive manner. And with that in mind, we have actually created a group of people who no longer feel helpless and hopeless, but now see how we can achieve what we have been trying to achieve over the years. Slow but sure. In my role as a customer service rep, our role as customer service rep, we are the first group of people that the public would meet within the organization, face to face. We actually start that role where we deal with the benefits and all that Mr. Regis explained. That is where it starts. So we disseminate information and we accept information. It's through us that the public, the working public, can really enjoy what they should enjoy through the National Insurance Board. So our role is really critical to the success of the organization. It is critical even in the role of the compliance, where we deal with the employers and the way they manage the contributions that they take, I say, on behalf of the working population. It also deals with the information that is being generated within the public domain as it relates to how you access benefits, how you treat with all national insurance business. Even the income that generated, that first line of income comes through the customer service. So our role is really critical, and of course all the other stakeholders play a role in this dissemination of the Social Security administration of the National Insurance Board. So it is a role that we really pay is sacred to us, as Mr. Regis said. And in light of all that is happening to us now, why we feel that it is not respected by the employer, as though the worth, they don't see it. They see it on the financial statements. They see it when they get kudos from the persons above them, like the government. Yes, you are administered, but where did it start? It started at the place, at the end, at the bottom, as they call it, for it to reach to the top. So as a chairman, our role in this organization is to ensure that we get our justice.
Well, Ms. Constance Hercules, very well stated, very well articulated. Indeed, I can definitely feel your distress based on some of the information you just shared with us. And so, based on what you just said, as you stated, clearly you are the frontline person, you're the first person that comes into contact with the general public. And there's a very important role indeed. And so, can you share with me a little bit, since you mentioned that this has been your role for since 31 years?
No, since 1995.
1995. 95, yes. Since 1995, and what do you feel is, what do you feel are some of the reasons why, for example, a person would stay in a particular position and not walk through the ranks, so to say?
Disenchantment and disrespect. Disrespect in the sense that an organization such as the N.I.B, if they had followed the rules and guidelines within corporate governance, and there was quality within all their procedures and what their functions, of course the main tenet would be continuous training and upliftment of their employees to advance to other positions within the organization. Because ideally, your employees would come in with the basic requirements into the workplace. And now that you have these persons within your workplace, it is your duty as an employer to ensure that they are given every tool to advance them to other positions within the organization. Because it means you will have your procedures to deal with anything that is negative, and you have your procedures to deal with the positive aspects. So once you have quality within your governance, employees should not be at this position where you have been working for so many years and not advanced to another position. Plus another thing too is the remuneration. When I say remuneration, an organization would ensure that to attract persons into another field, you will have, outside of the position, we like position, there is remuneration is in respect to what is expected of them. But when you have remuneration that is not equal to the what is necessary in the job, or what I say the responsibility given to that position, that also hinders persons from wanting to move up. An example is a customer service rep. From there you could go to a supervisor. But a customer service rep would prefer to remain a customer service rep and not be a supervisor. Why? We have more control over what we do and how we do it within the customer service rep. And we have less authority in the sense of what is expected when the management will ask you for things at a given time, like at the end of the month. We don't have that to deal with. But as a supervisor, it's as though you're actually running the department, because you supervise staff, you supervise reports, you supervise a lot of actions within that department. And when you look at the level of remuneration between the posts, you're not interested to go there. So you remain a customer service rep. And if you want to go beyond that post, then there are other considerations that come into place, and I will leave those considerations for later down in the segment. Mr. Regis will outline those other considerations. I don't want to speak too much now on those things at this point.
Mr. Police, thank you very much for sharing. And we appreciate the information that is being brought to the fore and bring greater awareness so that the public can be more aware of what's happening within workplaces. So we thank you, Ms. Constance, the police. And then, to my right, the gentleman is going to introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about your role, your name, your role, and some of the issues at present within your particular role, what you do with the N.I.B.
Okay, hi. My name is Richard Steno. I have been employed with the National Insurance Board for 12 years, so as I can plainly see, I'm the baby. I'm the baby on the panel. With my colleagues having 30-something years experience, I'll be considered the baby.
Well, we welcome the baby as well.
All right. I work in the accounts department. I handle the cash reports that come from the service centers, where the CSR made the collections of payments from the employers concerning the contributions, penalty, interest, and so forth. These reports are done on a daily basis from each of our 14 service centers. So I go through the data, make sure that the cash reports are in order, credit the respective accounts, to do a monthly report for the income generated from the employers concerning different types of payments made through the CSRs and the service centers. My main drive in the going up as a committee member as of November 2010 was the fact that being a very outspoken individual, which sometimes get me in trouble, but nonetheless, I noticed over the years of employment that the administrative side of it had us in a rather tenuous position, and we were taken advantage of. So, and most because of the working conditions, which we will discuss those things later on, working conditions, the physical aspects of the service centers and so forth, and employees, because of their drive, their willingness to assist the public, were just taking those things and not paying attention to it, and sometimes it was hazardous to them. So I joined to make people more aware of their rights as employees, especially when health and safety matters are concerned, and to encourage them to become more militant and stand for their rights.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sedano, for sharing the information with us. Now, since you just mentioned something about the working conditions, I looked, as I mentioned, at this past Sunday's UNI and PSA and was a little bit stunned, which actually is like, it's not even the word that I want to use in terms of some of the working conditions that you all shared live on the air that you experience at N.I.B. And Mr. Terence Regis, I was wondering if you could share a little bit with the listening public and viewing public about those working conditions.
Perhaps I can offer a word I say stand is perhaps not sufficiently descriptive of what you but horrified perhaps might help, it might be more helpful in expressing it.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's an organization of great banks, $21 billion in assets. When that is mentioned, the financial wherewithal of the National Insurance Board, people take for granted without hearing more about the N.I.B. That is an occupational heaven on earth. Has to be. $21 billion organization. Why should we be complaining about problems of rats infestation in offices, rundown and dilapidated physical conditions generally, and more to the point of immediate concern, problems in getting adequate salary compensation. $21 billion organization.
How long has the N.I.B. been around, Mr. Regis?
The N.I.B. was brought into being by legislation of 1971, and the organization itself as an independent body, a statutory body, began operations in 1972. Growing out of the Ministry of Labor, unit of the Ministry of Labor, that is prior to 72. So we're talking about 40 years now? 40 years of formal existence as a statutory.
Why was it born in the first place?
It relates to reasons that we did more than simply allude to earlier on. To provide social security protection for the population, to protect people against loss of income as it would almost inevitably occur during the course of your working life and at the end of your working life. That is a necessary thing in modern societies, modern industrial society, structured the way in which we are, where there's ever greater dependency than before on the receipt of a salary, on the receipt of a wage. Right? That is the most direct answer I think I could give. I hope I could to the question, why was it brought into being?
And whose idea was to bring it into being?
Actually, it was at the initiative of the government at the time, in keeping with the development of, the general need to develop social institutions as a newly independent state to achieve all that goes with the whole modernization process. They had some studies being done as far back as in the 60s, right? White papers and so on being generated. with technical assistance from the International Labour Organization that would lead eventually to the establishment of the system. Interesting that they should ask whose idea, or that one might describe that as the somewhat proximate cause. And I'm saying that really when you take a longer historical view, the establishment of social security systems is something that had been anchored and agitated for long before the 60s, right? Going back to the 1930s, even though there wasn't this articulation specifically for social insurance systems, but social security provision in general, right, is one of the things after the upheavals of the 30s, the labor upheavals, when investigations were done, a particular commission of inquiry was set up to inquire into the causes of the disturbances. One of the major findings was the general absence of social protection provisions. So, refer to the proximate causes, the more immediate circumstances a while ago in terms of government initiative during the 60s. But that had to be understood against the background of a longer term quest on the part of the working class, right, for social protection systems. Right? You see, for as long as we talk about it, what is going to emerge is that place that we work in is really the outcome of the yearning, aspiration, and struggle of the working class generally for its own social protection. Working class action is has been more than just going around a bargaining table and talking about wages. Historically, it has been more than that. And social security systems really constitute one of the legacies of working class action around the world.
Very well articulated. Excuse me, Dave. Because actually you beat me to the question I was going to ask. What inspired persons to, what brought about the inception of the N.I.B, and you anticipated the question that I was going to ask you, so I thank you for that anticipation, and very well articulated indeed. So this is the first labor union, well, the oldest in the region, and the very first labor union, PSA, Public Services Association, with its own voice, with its own radio station. So that you all have an amazing opportunity now to air your grievances so that the public can be more aware of some of what's happening within your workplace. So now, Constance Hercules, tell us a little bit about some of the working conditions that you touched on before, and if you could add to what Mr. Regis said, if there's anything to add. But I was concerned when this past Sunday on UNI and PSA, you talked about mold in the carpet, and mold is something that is highly toxic for us to ingest via breathing.
$21 billion organization.
You keep saying that $21 billion
organization, always remember that.
And yet the carpet has mold and holes in the floor, and it's a health hazard, it's a health risk. I mean, in the United States today, there are many buildings and businesses and places of residence where mold has been a major issue with health-related problems. So if you could expand a little bit more on that, please, Ms. Hercules.
With pleasure to expand, but not pleasure to speak on.
Absolutely.
We start right home here, next to this building that we are in, is one of our largest service centers.
On Abercrombie Street.
On Abercrombie Street.
It's important for us to say where we're located, because we have, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cross you. We do have global listeners as well, people who tune in globally, not just in the region, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but globally. So we're happy to be able to share this interview with them as well. So Abercrombie Street, Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Yes, where we have our North Regional Service Center. That this building houses at least 3 departments. The building originally can't say what year, but I am positive that the number of persons that should be housed there, the persons that are there now, far exceed the number that should be there in accordance with health and safety regulations.
So how many persons are there and how many persons are legally allowed to be there?
I would believe that legally the building may have housed about 50 persons or more, but I am sure now we have more than that. It's unfortunate that I can't give you the head count, but I am positive because that building originally only housed the service center and one other floor that even the service center was occupying. It is now housing a data unit, compliance unit, and the service center. In addition to that, we have the personnel, the security personnel who must be there, and the public. We cannot determine how large the public would be on any given day. And being considered as the head office to all the service centers, you have people coming from as far east as Guayari, southeast, Point Forte, even Tobago sometimes. When they find that the local offices are not treated with their matters, they come right to this Abercrombie Street branch. When you talk about mold created due to water entering the building from the orifices as you talk, you can't even tell, other than windows which are supposed to be secured, floors which are supposed to be properly sealed, through the walls, water comes through these areas. So that's why there's mold on the walls and in the carpeting. You're also speaking of overcrowding. So it means that the sanitary facilities would not be enough to treat with the members there. And we have more females than males in most of our organization generally. So I don't have to go into the issues. If anybody walk on Abercrombie Street right now, they will see a industrial netting or construction netting that has been there for maybe more than 3 years or more due to a dislocation of the upper area of the building. And you can see cracks even from outside of the building if you stand on the street and you look up. That is a hazard that should have been dealt with long time, and it hasn't been dealt with. So you have you accommodate your staff in such hazardous environment, and even the public, and under the Health and Safety Act, and the occupier of the building is responsible for both their people and the public. And this is the risk that we are putting our people through. All right. The staff have to also deal with lack of air due to bad AC ventilation. ACs are placed badly. Sometimes staff have to be working under conditions where AC is blowing on them for the 8 hours of the day that they are in the building. Or you have staff who are not getting enough air because of where they are placed. So ventilation is a problem. And if we have ventilation problem, the building is on a roadway that is heavily trafficked. So it means there will be a lot of inflow of bad air and no extraction to take the air out. So it means people are not breathing properly. And this is not only common to the North Regional, this is common throughout the organization. Then we have an office as far as Rio Claro that was deemed unfit for habitation, where the management was informed by their health and safety manager that staff should be immediately removed, since 2011. And we are now in 2012, and they have not yet been removed. We have the Scarborough Mall that is owned by NIB, a subsidiary of the N.I.B, that is unfit for habitation, but yet instead of the employer getting rid of the current tenants and also relocating the staff that were recommended to be relocated by that said officer of the board for health and safety, we see the employer still bringing in new tenants into that dilapidated building. We don't have to say it's dilapidated. Anyone going to Tobago, our lovely tourist island, can see that that building is dilapidated. people should not be housed there. You have a sewer system there that is uncovered. It's open to the air. Obviously, you're breathing foul air. Within the building, any day, the staff can find themselves having to be evacuated somehow because they will find affluent all around them. It happens on a regular basis. But soon, it will be just not a little bit in a specific area. It will be all over. The smell that emanates from that area on any given day sometimes is terrible that staff have to actually remove themselves from the area in order to feel comfortable. We have a facility in Shagwanas. Staff have been promised over 3 years now to be relocated. Yes, the employer has shown us that efforts are being made, but it is too slow. In the meantime, you're working under conditions that as you have hazards of security, again, air, where a member of staff, the management committee had to actually agitate and force the management hand to allow this member of staff to be removed because of her health. It should not even have reached to that. From the time a member of staff gave you a medical report showing that the environment is not conducive to their good health, why should a management committee have to get into that to have staff member removed? And that's just one. We have another department, we have a REMA, another main area of concern, where right now a whole floor had to be removed and relocated. So it means they have been also relocated to another area that is now overcrowded, which is our Tunapuna service area. That building is also overcrowded. So we have problems of overcrowding, unhealthy and unsafe environment with regard to the air content, the equipment, the way we are housed, the way we are accommodated. It's too much. If I go down the list, we will spend a whole day here speaking of these things. Just recently, at our head office, Cipriani Boulevard, we had a terrible incident where an air conditioning unit blew. However, it was also discovered that gas was emanating in that building even prior to that incident happening. And the employer, because it was considered that the gas that emanated from that incident wasn't toxic, we believe as the management committee of the union that the matter wasn't treated in the manner that it should have. Regardless of whether it's toxic or non-toxic, gas is gas. That gas is Freon 22 gas, and anybody go on the net, read about it. All the implications are there. It could even lead to death. And
that is Freon 22.
Freon 22.
And how is that spelled?
Freon 22. And when that happened, what we believe should have been done, immediate evacuation of the building. Instead, the floor was that the incident occurred on was immediately evacuated, yes, not even as quick as we believe it should be done, but there were other persons on other floors who weren't even aware of what was happening. And the whole response was poor when you think about emergency evacuation. And when the union spoke to management and asked that they allow staff to be allowed to leave the building and that the management ensure that the proper ventilation of the building is done before staff be readmitted to the building, we were told that the officer of health and safety said it's not toxic. The company who owned the air conditioning unit said that there is no harm done. The matter was treated, and staff who are not affected can continue to work, and those who are so affected may feel free to leave. That wasn't good enough. To date, we are not aware that the exhaust that the company who created that gas actually that it was done. So we are saying these are the kind of conditions that we have to work under.
Well,
$21 billion
$21 billion organization. Absolutely.
Yes.
This Constance Hercules, thank you very much. I pulled up some information on the internet before I allow Mr. Sedeno to speak about Freon 22 and some of the health hazards. And according to DuPont, in the United States, it states here that inhalation of high concentrations of vapor from Freon 22 is harmful and may cause heart irregularities, unconsciousness, or death. Intentional misuse or deliberate inhalation can be fatal. Vapors are heavier than air and pose a threat of suffocation if trapped in enclosed or low places, such as yours.
Yes.
Liquid contact can cause frostbite. Inhalation may cause dizziness, headache, confusion, incoordination, and loss of consciousness. Immediate effects of overexposure by inhalation may include central nervous system depression with dizziness, confusion, incoordination, drowsiness, or unconsciousness. Gross exposure may cause irregular heartbeat with a strange sensation in the chest, heart thumping, apprehension, lightheadedness, feeling of fainting, dizziness, weakness, sometimes progressing to loss of consciousness and death. Well, I don't think we need to go on with the rest of the description. Just by that statement alone that it could cause death speaks volumes, does it not?
It does. And what we felt should have been done, we can determine the level of exposure in the sense of the amount. And there's a company who has that authority, which is Karyn, and Karyn should have been brought in to measure the air content to ensure that staff had not been exposed to levels higher than they should have. And even based on that exposure, would have recommended what action should have been taken.
Oh, this
That
is at
wasn't
which
done.
office?
At our head office, Cipriani Boulevard.
Cipriani Boulevard. Ms. Constance Wiggles, thank you so much for being so articulate in expressing some of the health risks and health hazards that some of the staffers of the N.I.B are experiencing at this time. Now, Mr. Richard Sedano, to my right, wanted to share some thoughts as well. Please, Mr. Sedano, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Concerning that incident, the leaking of the foreign gas at our head office, the initial response that our health and safety officer gave was that it was confined to the second floor, which is where the gas escaped. There are no lasting effects of the gas, and he was told that by the two technicians who came from the company that provides us with the air conditioning units. Hearing that, and being concerned because of my experience with air conditioning units in the car, knowing and speaking with the guys who do the repairs and the dangers and the special equipment they use and so forth while handling the gas to recondition the cars. I went and did some
equipment to handle the gas.
They will make sure
you have no equipment.
have gas masks. They will have make sure they have on gloves for direct contact, as I said. If you get frostbite and so forth. So having those concerns, I went on the Monday after evening at home, and I got two material safety sheet reports from two companies from away, Airco and Airgas, which handle that gas. They give you a description of the chemical components of the gas, and so forth. They give you all the effects which is stated, where it could damage your spleen and liver and so forth. Because the gas is heavier, 3 to 4 times heavier than air, it settles low to the ground. So it happening on the second floor, and it's like second, and all the floors being accessed by both an elevator and a stairwell. Obviously, because it's heavier and with the air conditioning unit circulating the air, when it heavier, obviously it would have gone down to the lower floors, the first floor, the ground floor, and the basement. Right, so that statement made about being confined to the second floor was totally false. Another reason is, of course, when we toxicity of the gas. They were saying how the people who come in to stop the leak and so forth have to wear self-breathing apparatus. They have to be specially trained in order to go to the area that is affected. The entire building, even the air conditioning unit at home, they recommend that all doors and windows are open, and they use fans if possible to get rid of the air.
To ventilate the
air. To ventilate the home. All children and dogs, because it settles lower to the ground because it's heavier than air, of course they will be more directly affected than us who are taller. Right, so that's in a home environment. So when you have a commercial air conditioning unit that's 20 times the size of a normal AC unit at home. I mean the amount of gas. People in the second floor work on saying how they saw haze. The floor became the floor was hazy.
I saw it. I was there.
The people's eyes began to burn, which is one of the side effects.
This happened when? When was this incident?
That was
Monday.
2 weeks ago, Monday.
It was a Monday.
It was a Monday, 2 weeks ago, I believe 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
And the response from this health and safety officer we have was like so nonchalant, like, no, it has no lasting effects. And he took that recommendation based on 2 technicians who were trained to gas at AC unit and to stop leak. And I was providing him information from 2 companies from their material safety sheet reports, which comply with OSHA standards. And it clearly shows that. And I'm telling him, these are the side effects that the gas produce. This is how you're supposed to treat people. People are supposed to be, especially treat people with breathing apparatus, clothing, supposed to go to get rid of the leak. The people who inhale the gas have to go on respirators to pump oxygen into them to get the gas out of their lungs, because it's heavy, it settles down to the lower part of the lung, and that's where it starts to do damage to the internal organs. Right, so everybody in that second floor was supposed to go to a health facility to be put up on respirators to get that gas pumped out of them, because it was the effect when we was actually seeing a haze. So obviously it was concentrated and not no little leak that was experienced. For it to have a haze throughout the entire floor, it had to be a heavy exposure of the gas. And it was a nonchalant attitude. And then they say, and if it's feeling effects, go to our board doctor. What can a general practitioner do? What test can he run to tell you if you have gas? Put his telescope to the chest and tell it breathe in, breathe out.
Pulmonary specialist generally would be a person that one would
That's
visit
right.
for breathing or bronchial
So it's the whole administrative attitudes and policies towards safety issues that I have a very large concern about. We have service centers as content center in Rio Claro, where when you go downstairs to the filing room, you encounter snakes.
A snake was
Did I hear right? Did you say snakes?
Snakes!
Yes.
On more than one occasion that it encountered snakes, they actually caught one of them once.
This is which office?
Rio Claro Service Center.
And then there have been other instances where other offices found other insects that are dangerous within their areas. And of course, we spoke about rat infestation. And then we have bats at the Rio Claro. There were bats. A lot of things that staff have to deal with day by day.
Now, how
And
long,
back
has this
one right
been
where
going
any
on?
managers do.
How long has this been going on? How long
Too
have
long.
these
Too long.
health concerns been?
Too long. And what we as a management committee have been trying to educate our members and ourselves what is required under health and safety requirements. And even in that instance, the employer may treat it as though we are being, bad by doing the right thing according to the act, as though we're using this as a tool to advance other positions that are emanating right now, which is
Trying to disrupt
work, which is far from it. Had we been behaving the way we should have, they would not have had that cause. But because of our love for the same thing that we serve, social security, we put our health at risk. We put our lives at risk to serve the public, to at least maintain the core being of what we are. For we are part of this organization. We are the National Insurance Board of Trinidad and Tobago. So we don't want to leave the ship and let it sink. But in the meantime, we also have to look out for ourselves. Because if we are not there to serve, then the administration and the whole social security system will fall.
There's a saying that goes, self-preservation is nature's first law. So charity begins at home. So taking care of self is number one, so that you can take care and be of service to others. And at this point, we're going to take a break until just for a few minutes and come back and of course pick up where we left off, because this is a very, very interesting conversation. I know that I'm very interested in what is being shared here today. I'm stunned and surprised, and all the words that one can use in the vocabulary as to some of the conditions and health hazards that you all are facing and going through today. So we want to say thank you to Mr. Sedeno, Ms. Hercules, and Mr. Regis for sharing what you've shared thus far. We're going to take a break now. You're tuned in to PSA Radio. I'm Karyn Rudd, keeping you company until 1 o'clock today. And when we come back from our break, we will continue with the conversation in terms of the N.I.B. and some of what's happening in their place of employment. And thank you for tuning into PSA Radio, the radio station that continues to keep you informed and entertained.
Oh, this is great.
You can go to the bathroom.
All right. I'll have coffee. Between us is
And we can take a 15-minute break actually if you wish.
and nicotine and
15 minutes.
Yeah, we
can take a
Thanks,
15-minute
Peter.
break. You want to go to 11, so we can
I have double jeopardy your place. Nicotine and coffee.
and bathroom. Bathroom break.
That is fun.
I'm really stunned by what you all are
Yes.
living through and working through. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That's why I went on the committee to get people more cognizant of your
Where? Yes.
rights as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Regis.
Thanks. Okay.
I think this
This
is
one,
enough.
after some of them, go for 2 minutes. All right.
Mr. Jofield, are you aware that the registration is not being piped? Nobody's hearing the interview in the building. Yeah, just found that out. Don't know. I don't know if it's a malfunction since they lost power downstairs. Okay. Of course. Of course. I just had a little break right now. I'm using the bathroom and having some coffee. And we're resuming at 11. So you're going to join us, yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. It's being recorded anyway.
This is Karyn. You're tuned into PSA Radio. You're tuned into PSA Radio. With your host keeping you company Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tune into PSA Radio at radio.psat.org. We'll be thinking of keeping you informed and entertained.
You're tuned in PSA Radio, pick up PSATT.org, where we continue to keep you informed and entertained. It's now 10:54 on Wednesday morning, the 23rd of May, and of course we have the amazing interview that's being conducted right now at the PSA headquarters, Public Services Association headquarters on number 89 Abercrombie Street in Forbes Bay, Trinidad. And we're interviewing some members from the some employees from the N.I.B, or National Insurance Board, who are members of PSA, the Public Services Association, from Mr. Terence Regis, Ms. Constance Hercules, and Mr. Cedeno, Mr. Richard Cedeno, who are employees of the National Insurance Board, and basically airing some of their grievances and airing some of their views and their feelings, very strong feelings about some of the working conditions that they've been experiencing for a very long time at the N.I.B, or the National Insurance Board. We feel very pleased and very honored to know that this union, the Public Services Association, is the oldest union in the region, and it is the first union with a voice, its own voice, with a radio station whereby we can give members of the Public Services Association a voice to air their grievances, so that the public, the Trinidad and Tobago public, and of course the region and globally, can become aware of some of the working conditions that are being experienced right now in workplaces throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So also every Sunday there is UNI on PSE, that is on CTV on Channel 6. That program is every Sunday from 12:30 to 1:30. It is headed by Mr. Watson Duke, who is the president of the Public Services Association, and we feel very, very pleased that every Sunday that is from 12:30 to 1:30 on CTV Channel 6. Those of you who are outside of Trinidad and would like to see the program, you can go on to cttworld.com, and that way you can look at the program as well. So we're currently 12:30 to 1:30 Trinidad time, so you have to check whatever time zone that you're in, how that compares to the time in your area. So we thank you very much for tuning in to PSA Radio and choosing PSA Radio as a station that continues to keep you informed and entertained simultaneously. And it's just 10:46 in the morning on Wednesday the 23rd of May. We're approaching the hour of 11. The interview is resuming at 11 o'clock in approximately 4 minutes. So stay tuned and stay locked onto radio.psatt.org, the radio station that continues to keep you informed and entertained.
coming in now.
Okay,
How
great.
long we have again?
1 minute. Coming up here.